Picture this scenario. You're sitting at your kitchen table on a Sunday morning, sipping your coffee, scrolling through your bank account on your phone. The bills are paid, the lights are on, there's food in the fridge, nothing's screaming at you, and you close that banking app thinking to yourself, okay, I'm doing all right. We're fine. But here's the question I need you to sit with this morning, and I want you to really sit with it. What if you're wrong? What if fine is just another word for I haven't been paying close enough attention yet? What if the version of your financial life that feels stable right now is actually sitting on a foundation with serious cracks in it? Cracks you can't see from the surface because nobody is asking you to look. Cracks that don't announce themselves until something goes sideways and you're suddenly staring at a bill you cannot pay, or a retirement that cannot happen on the timeline you planned, or a crisis that wipes out everything you thought you had. My name is Felicia, and I built this channel around one simple mission: to tell you the truth about money that nobody else seems willing to say out loud. Because I have lived in that Sunday morning feeling myself. I thought I was doing fine for years. Turns out I was confusing not drowning with swimming. Big difference. If you're new here, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps this channel reach women who need to hear this conversation. Today, we are going deep on something that doesn't get talked about enough: the 7 signs that you are doing worse than you think financially, even when everything feels okay from the outside. Let me start with the one that catches the most people off guard, especially women who are managing a lot of moving pieces at once. Sign number 1 is that your paycheck arrives, the money moves, and you genuinely cannot account for where it went. Now, I already know what some of you are thinking. I don't have a spending problem. My bills are paid. And I want to be careful here because I'm not here to tell you that you have a spending problem. What I am telling you is that if you sat down right now, seriously, right now, and tried to trace every single dollar from last month, and you genuinely couldn't do it without a lot of guesswork, that is a sign of something important. It's a sign that your financial life is being lived reactively instead of intentionally. Here's what they don't tell you at the bank. There is a massive difference between having money move through your account and actually directing where it goes. These are not the same thing. And the research on this is sobering. According to a 2024 report from the Financial Health Network, 70% of American households remain financially unhealthy, and the primary reason isn't that people aren't making enough money. It's that the day-to-day indicators are crumbling. The share of households spending less than they earn, paying all their bills on time, managing a reasonable debt load, all of those numbers declined in 2024. And the group getting hit hardest? Middle-income households, the people who by every external measure appear to be doing fine. The people sitting at that kitchen table on Sunday morning thinking everything is okay. You might be thinking, I have a decent income, so this surely can't be me. But here's what those numbers are actually measuring. They're not measuring whether you have a paycheck. They're measuring whether you have control over what happens after that paycheck arrives. Because there's a version of middle-income life in this country where you are making real money and spending just slightly faster than you're making it, and everything looks fine from the outside because nothing has broken yet. Nothing has forced the reckoning. But here's the thing about reckonings. They don't announce themselves in advance. They show up as the job that disappears, the medical bill that arrives, the car that finally gives out on you, and then suddenly the gap between what you thought you had and what you actually have becomes devastatingly clear in a moment when you are least equipped to deal with it. The fix here isn't complicated. It's uncomfortable, but it isn't complicated. Pull your last 90 days of spending from your bank and credit card statements. Categorize every purchase. Not to shame yourself. That is not the goal. The goal is clarity, because you cannot fix what you cannot see. And I promise you, something will show up in those 90 days that surprises you. Something always does. Once you know where the money is actually going, you can decide where you want it to go instead. That act of deciding, that intentionality, is where real financial power begins. Now let's talk about sign number 2. And this is one I'm particularly passionate about because it affects women disproportionately and almost never gets discussed in the language it deserves. Sign number 2 is that you have no real emergency fund, or what you're calling an emergency fund wouldn't actually survive a real emergency. Let me be direct about how serious this is. A 2025 Bankrate survey found that only 41% of Americans could cover a surprise $1,000 expense using savings. That number was 44% the year before. It's moving in the wrong direction. And if $1,000 feels too small to shock you, consider this. 27% of Americans have no emergency savings at all. None. Zero. And 29% have more credit card debt than emergency savings, meaning they owe more than they have saved for a rainy day. Here is why that matters so acutely for women specifically. The research on who tends to carry that imbalance points clearly towards single women, single mothers, and caregivers, the people running households on one income without a financial backup. According to data from the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies, 57% of women say they don't have enough income to save for retirement. Not for the future, just for the present. And the LIMRA 2024 Insurance Barometer study found that nearly half of all U.S. households would face financial hardship within 6 months if the primary wage earner could no longer earn income. Half of households, and that's in households that often have two incomes. For women who are the sole financial provider, and that number is significant and growing, 6 months is optimistic. Here's the math that nobody walks you through. The conventional wisdom says 3 to 6 months of expenses in liquid savings. Let's say your core monthly expenses are $3,000, rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, transportation. That's modest but real for a lot of people. 3 months of savings means $9,000 sitting there. 6 months means $18,000. I know some of you are looking at those numbers and feeling your stomach tighten. I hear you. I'm not asking you to get there by next week, but I need you to understand something. If you currently have less than 1 month of expenses saved, less than that $3,000, what you have is not an emergency fund. It is a bad month fund. And bad months are not emergencies. Emergencies are the events that would take you completely out if you weren't prepared. The job loss, the health crisis, the major repair that costs more than everything you've managed to save. Your emergency fund has to be able to handle those things without destroying everything else you're building. The starting point is 1 month. Build to 3, then build to 6. And wherever you keep that money, make it earn something while it waits. A high-yield savings account is currently paying between 4 and 5% annually. Your financial safety net should not be sitting in a savings account earning essentially nothing while inflation quietly eats away at it. Let it work for you even when you're not using it. Sign number 3 is the one I need you to really hear, because it hides behind a feeling of stability that is actually borrowed time. Sign number 3 is that your lifestyle has grown with your income or faster. Now, let me tell you something about lifestyle creep. It doesn't feel like a problem while it's happening. That's precisely what makes it so destructive. The raise you got 2 years ago, where did that money go? If I asked you right now to trace it into something that's building your future, could you? The bonus from last year, is any of it still working for you, or did it dissolve into a slightly more expensive version of your daily life? The subscription services that somehow add up to $60 or $80 a month, the grocery store you upgraded to, the apartment you stepped into when the old one felt too small. Every single one of these decisions felt completely reasonable in isolation. That is exactly the nature of this trap. The research here is both fascinating and deeply inconvenient. Behavioral economists have a name for what happens when your standard of living improves: hedonic adaptation. The human brain adjusts to new levels of comfort within approximately 3 months. What felt luxurious at the start of the year becomes baseline necessity by the end of it. And this happens automatically beneath the level of conscious decision-making without you ever sitting down and choosing it, which is exactly why you didn't notice it happening and why it's so hard to reverse once it's set in. You didn't upgrade your lifestyle. Your lifestyle upgraded itself and then sent you the bill. Here's what I want you to understand about the compound effect of lifestyle inflation over time. When your spending consistently grows in proportion to your income or slightly ahead of it, you are running a financial treadmill. Your income goes up, your lifestyle adjusts upward to match it, and your ability to build anything beyond that lifestyle stays exactly the same. You feel better because you have more comfort. You are not better off financially because you haven't accumulated anything. The people who become truly financially secure are not necessarily the people who made the most money. The data consistently shows they are the people who maintained a meaningful gap between what they earned and what they spent, and then they put that gap to work year after year, compounding. Here is the test. What percentage of your last raise went towards savings or investments? If the honest answer is less than 25%, or if the honest answer is, I genuinely don't know, sign number 3 is yours. Save at least half of every raise before your lifestyle ever feels a dollar of it. If half feels impossible right now, start with 25%. But some meaningful percentage has to be redirected toward building your future. Because money spent upgrading today is money that has permanently lost its ability to build tomorrow. Sign number 4 is where we get into the math that makes people most uncomfortable, and I need you to stay with me because this one carries the biggest long-term consequence of anything on this list. Sign number 4 is that you're not investing, or you're investing so little that it won't meaningfully matter when you need it to. Women in this country have approximately 32% less saved by the time they retire than men do. That is not a slight gap. That is not a rounding error. That is the difference between a retirement where you have choices and one where you are rationing every single month, wondering how Social Security and what little you manage to save are going to stretch far enough. And part of why that gap exists is structural. The gender wage gap, the motherhood penalty, the career interruptions that happen disproportionately to women who step back to care for children or aging parents. Those are real. Those are not your fault. But part of that gap is also this. A 2024 SoFi survey found that 64% of women say they have never invested, never put money into the market at all. I want to be clear about something because this is where I hear the financial industry get preachy in a way that misses the actual problem. The reason most women haven't invested is not laziness or irresponsibility. The financial industry has spent decades treating women like they don't belong in the investment conversation. The intimidating jargon, the condescending advice to stay conservative, because apparently women are too emotional to handle volatility. The advisors who talked past women to their husbands in the same room. Bless their hearts. What all of that gatekeeping actually produced was generations of women who were never taught to see themselves as investors, who absorbed the message that this space wasn't for them. And that identity gap has a very specific, very calculable dollar cost. Here's what that cost looks like in real numbers. If you are 35 years old today and you invest $300 a month in a basic index fund averaging historical returns, by the time you are 65, you would have accumulated approximately $340,000. If you wait until 45 to start just 10 years later, that same $300 a month produces about $135,000. That is a $200,000 difference from a single 10-year delay. The money contributed in both scenarios is nearly the same. The only variable is time. And time in the market is the one resource that once gone, you absolutely cannot buy back. If you are not investing at all, start today. Even $50 a month is not nothing. It is a beginning, and beginnings compound. If you're contributing to your 401k just enough to capture the employer match and calling that your strategy, I need you to hear me. The match is the floor, not the ceiling. Most financial experts recommend 15% of your gross income toward retirement, including any employer contribution. You don't have to get there overnight, but you have to be moving toward it with intention. Sign number 5 is the one people feel most defensive about, so I want to approach it carefully. Sign number 5 is that your net worth is not growing, or you don't actually know what your net worth is. Net worth is the number that tells you the truth. Your paycheck cannot everything you own minus everything you owe. And if that number is not growing year over year, something is structurally broken in your financial picture, even if the surface feels fine. According to the Aspen Institute, approximately 13 million U.S. households have a negative net worth. They owe more than they own. Those households are twice as likely to be headed by women and disproportionately headed by single mothers and women of color. When you look at the data specifically for Black women, the numbers demand acknowledgement. Research has found that the median wealth for single Black women is around $200, not $200,000. $200? I'm going to be real with you for a second. Those numbers don't exist because Black women are bad with money. They exist because of deliberate policy choices across generations, redlining, discriminatory lending, wage gaps that compound over entire careers, the systematic denial of wealth-building tools that were made available to white households. These are structural realities, and I say that both to place responsibility where it belongs and to make clear that building wealth from where you stand right now is an act of reclamation, not just ambition. Here's what I want you to actually do. Calculate your net worth today. Add up everything you own: savings, retirement accounts, any investments, home equity if you own, car value. Then add up everything you owe: credit card balances, student loans, car loans, mortgage balance. Subtract the second list from the first. Write that number down. Set a calendar reminder to do it again in 6 months. Because the direction matters as much as the destination. A negative number that is improving consistently is progress. A flat number that isn't moving is a warning sign, no matter how comfortable the daily experience feels. Sign number 6 is about protection, and it is the one that working women most often overlook because it isn't as exciting or visible as the accumulation side of finance. Sign number 6 is that you are underinsured, and you don't realize how significant the gap is. I'm not only talking about health insurance, though that matters enormously. I'm talking about disability insurance. I'm talking about life insurance that actually reflects your financial contribution to your household. I'm talking about the infrastructure of protection that is supposed to catch you when everything else fails. Here's what they don't tell you at HR orientation when you sign up for your benefits. The disability insurance your employer provides typically covers 60% of your base salary. It doesn't include bonuses or variable compensation. And because your employer usually pays those premiums with pre-tax dollars, the benefit you receive if you ever need to file a claim is fully taxable, which means your actual check could be closer to 35 or 40% of your former income. Think about what that means in real life. You go from a salary you've built your entire household around to roughly a third of that income, potentially for months or years, and you're supposed to sustain yourself and everyone who depends on you on that amount indefinitely. The LIMRA 2024 Insurance Barometer study found that nearly half of U.S. households would face financial hardship within 6 months in exactly that scenario. Here's the specific action here. Review your actual disability coverage. Read the documents, not just the summary. Understand the gap between what you would receive and what you actually need. And price out what supplemental disability insurance would cost you privately. For many people, it is significantly less expensive than they assumed. And the protection it provides is worth far more than the premium in the moment you actually need it. And then there is sign number 7, which in some ways is the most subtle and the most consequential. Sign number 7 is that you are not thinking seriously about your financial future, or you keep pushing that thinking to later. I mean, you have not sat down in the last 12 months and looked honestly at where you will be financially in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, based on the specific choices you are making right now. Not where you intend to be, not where you hope to be, where you will actually land given your current trajectory with 0 changes. Here is something that should create genuine urgency for every woman watching this. A 2024 national survey by the National Council on Aging and Women's Institute for a Secure Retirement found that less than half of women over 25 have saved anything at all for retirement. Less than half. And approximately 1/3 of women surveyed expected that their retirement income or savings would not be enough to cover their monthly bills once they stopped working. These are women who worked their entire adult lives, who contributed, who built things, and they are going to arrive at the moment they spent decades working toward and find that what's waiting for them is not rest. It is financial stress in a different form without the paycheck that used to cover it. Women also live an average of 5 years longer than men. Our retirement savings have to stretch further on a smaller base. 60% of women are divorced, widowed, or never married in retirement, meaning they navigate that longer, more expensive life without a financial partner to share the burden. And meanwhile, the median retirement savings for women workers overall is around $56,000 compared to $92,000 for men. The math compounds in ways that should move every woman who is not actively planning from passive discomfort into real action. Not panic, action. Here's why this sign is different from the other 6. Every other item on this list is about something happening in your financial picture right now. This one is about the future you're building or failing to build for the version of yourself who is coming. And the thinking you keep postponing is the thinking that determines absolutely everything. Vague intentions about the future are not a plan. I'll figure it out is not a strategy. What you need is a number. What does a comfortable retirement actually look like for you specifically, and what does it cost? Then you need to know your current trajectory. If nothing changes from this moment forward, where do you actually land? And if there's a gap, and there almost certainly is, you need a plan for closing it. That plan does not have to be perfect or complete on day one, but it has to exist. And it has to start today, not someday. Here is what I want you to walk away with. Feeling fine is not the same thing as being fine. Not drowning is not the same as swimming. And the financial system in this country is very, very good at letting people coast along feeling comfortable right up until the moment when they suddenly are not, and by then, compound interest has been working against you instead of for you for years, sometimes decades. The 7 signs we covered today: no visibility into where your money actually goes, no real emergency fund, a lifestyle that has grown to consume your income, not investing or investing too little, a net worth you don't track, inadequate insurance protection, and a financial future you keep avoiding thinking about. Seriously, none of these are character flaws. They are patterns. And patterns can be changed, starting from wherever you are right now. Nobody is coming to rescue your financial future, y'all. Not the government, not your employer's retirement plan, not a partner who may or may not be in your life years from now. The most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to see your situation with clear eyes, even when what you see is uncomfortable, and then start moving. One account at a time, one decision at a time, 1 month at a time. You watched this whole video, which means you are already paying attention, and attention is where every financial turnaround begins. Hit the like button if any of these 7 signs showed you something you needed to see. It helps this channel reach women who are out here thinking they're fine when they might not be. Subscribe if you haven't already, because this is exactly the kind of conversation we have every week. I will see you in the next one.